We have multiple Leafs updates to go over today. Is following a huge win against the Calgary Flames. The Leafs practice, and we have multiple updates, not only including the lines, but also some injuries as well. We're going to break that down, as well as discuss something that everyone is speaking out about. We also have some comments from some of the star players surrounding the current state of the team. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. If you want to help us towards our big goal of 20,000 subscribers, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, Darius, a lot to go over today, and obviously, we're at a point now in the season where everything matters that much more. We had the post-game stream yesterday. They're coming off of an absolutely fantastic game against the Flames. We had a video earlier today on Austin Matthews and his injury and all those things. But we have a bunch of different updates to go over today as it pertains to some injuries and all these different things. And let's start with the lines here. And it is very interesting because they are running it back, but it starts to, there's still a lot of fans out there that are not necessarily upset, but I'm curious to see what you think about it, that are saying keep this third line for the rest of the year and keep it going the way it is. Obviously, Scott Laughton moved down to the fourth line. Didn't have a great game, but also didn't have a bad game. And this is now the third or fourth, I believe, third game in a row where David Kampf, who's making more than a lot of these guys, is sitting out. So this is a pretty interesting update. I was a little bit surprised that they are running with the same one, even though it does make some sense.
I was surprised when they first changed the lineup to this. I could say that, but at this point in time, as the old saying goes, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? They won a game with this lineup, so don't go back to the way, the old lineup. Keep this one the way it is until it doesn't work, until they lose. So I do like it, and the fact that you mentioned, the third line, everyone's been talking about the third line. It was a hot topic of conversation in our stream last night, and obviously on Twitter and X and all, social medias about this third line that was put back together because, they were playing really well together through parts of December, maybe into January as well. And we talk a lot about identity in the St. Louis Blues of 2019 and how every line had an identity, and that's why they won. And Craig Berube likes that. He likes to work in pairs, and he likes lines to have identities, right? And Scott Laughton being on your fourth line is not ideal. I don't know if it stays that way, but for the time being, I don't think you can break up this third line because they've been playing really well together, and they actually have a lot of the way that they play together complements each other. The way that McMahon, what he brings to the table, complements Domi, and vice versa with Robertson, right? And Robertson's been bringing a lot to the table, including penalties last night, but he did score a goal, which was nice and got on the board there. But they've been complementing each other very well, and they have an identity. They're going to put the puck behind you. They're going to go get it. They're going to cycle well. They're going to get shots on goal, and I think that's a good thing for the Leafs. So keep that line together until it doesn't work at this point again, right? But it has been working. So keep them together. See if they can continue to roll. Now, the other topic of conversation, of course, is Scott Laughton, like we've been talking about, on the fourth line. It pushes David Kampf out of the lineup, which is $2.4 million you could have used elsewhere. So I don't think that it's going to stay that way, but for me, it's hard to take Lorentz out of the lineup. He had, nobody's really replaced what he's been able to do this year. I'm not talking about production in terms of points or goals, but what he brings to the table in terms of his play, his skating, obviously forechecking, stuff like that. You can't take him out. I've liked Yarncroke too since he returned from injury, so that's great. At least have a lot of pieces, and I don't think that's a bad thing heading into the playoffs because if there is an injury to Yarncroke or Lorentz or whoever, somebody else can come in instead of you either playing hurt or somebody from the Marlies coming up. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but giving up a first round pick for a guy who's playing on the fourth line could end up being a bad thing if they don't find a fit that gels properly there. And obviously Holmberg's still up there on the second line. He's a smart hockey player. He's just had a weird season, but it's going to be interesting. And the biggest thing I'm looking forward to, Nick, is how does Riley and Carlo go from here on out? Because Carlo's looked pretty good, like he settled in there, but Riley's still having a tough go. So I do wonder what the defense pairings look like. We know Tanev and McCabe are going to stay together if they're healthy heading into the playoffs. What are the rest of the pairings? That's the thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, Riley had an okay game yesterday, but we're saying okay compared to what he's done earlier on in the season. A big topic of conversation now also is Max Domi on the third line. Domi has been playing really well as of late. Obviously, he had the goal yesterday. And I think I don't know if he's a playoff third line center, though we think back to the playoffs against the Boston Bruins and he won a ton of faceoffs. So I think there is a world where something like this ends up being probably similar to the playoff lines. And let us know down below what, as of this moment, of course, we're still a ways away, what your playoff lines would look like as it pertains to both the blue line and the forward group. And also, Anthony Stolar is playing. There's a back-to-back coming up, so it does make some sense there as well. And Joseph Wall's coming off of an okay game there. So let us know what your thoughts are. It's interesting. Also, Yanni Hakanpää, I know we covered it in the video a little bit. Yanni Hakanpää's back skating. Max Pacioretty, they're making progress. And There is a world, I guess, where we see Yanni Hakanpää play, but I think almost now they'd rather Philip Myers. But maybe Yanni Hakanpää is a situation where they bring him back for the playoffs because he is starting to ramp up a little bit there. So that's an injury update on that front. But a couple other things I want to go over here. And there's been a lot of comments specifically coming out today surrounding the team. Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube and what he's noticed about the captain after 2 goals last night. He's grabbed a hold of the room. It's not good enough what's going on here. And he went out, he talked, and then he walked. So this is very encouraging. That's your leader, right? Led the way with effort, competitiveness, just work. This is the first time in a very long time that we saw the team actually play well. Like for the first time, it feels like weeks. They obviously lost a bunch of games, only won 1 out of their last 7 in regulation. This is a very interesting comment, and it's one you love to see. You love to see him praise him when he's up, but Matthews needs to continue to play like that, and hopefully he can continue to grab hold of the room because it was falling a little bit for there.
Yeah, for a couple weeks at this point. And one other thing I wanted to mention too, to go back to the lineup, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do wonder if Max Domi, depending how they play and how everything goes heading into the playoffs, I do wonder if the home playoff lineup has Max Domi at third line center and the away playoff lineup has Scott Lawton at third line center. I just wonder about that because of home ice advantage and obviously last change. But to get back to Matthews, he led the way last night. He had 2 goals. He looked a little bit like his old self. He was joking in the intermission interview as well, which was nice to see. So great comments there from Craig Berube on the captain. And Matthews did exactly this. He kind of, shut everyone up. He put his head down. He got to work last night. And I like to see that. And, like we covered before, Elliot Friedman reported that he is dealing with something. He's dealing with an injury and he sees it as an opportunity to put his head down, get to work and lead by example. And he did exactly that yesterday. And I was saying that you never like to see your best player injured in any situation, any team, but this is something that I think the rest of the team can buy into, right? And that might be a silver lining here where it's like, hey, I'm injured, but I'm still leading the way. So you guys got to bring your level way up to even match me. So I think that's a good thing for the team, but he's got to continue to play well. He's got to continue to put up goals, points, and play the way that we know he can because he hasn't looked that way all season. So last night was very refreshing in the way that, they're playing Calgary, who's no slouch. They're in the playoff mix as well, and they're fighting for their playoff lives. And the penalty kill, which has been terrible, was clicking last night. The power play, which has been terrible, was clicking last night, and the 5-on-5 play, which is nice. So we'll see what they can do against Colorado as well. They got to continue this, right? It doesn't end at yesterday's game. Continue it into this back-to-back. The Rangers are going to be hungry too, so got to consider that. So it's going to be interesting. But Max Domi as well has been playing well.
Yeah, you can see this here from Craig Berube on Max Domi. His game has gone to another level. He's way more aggressive. He's being the player we want him to be in people's faces. He had a really rough stretch there up until a week or 2 ago. Now he's really starting to come back. You can see this. Bobby McMahon spoke about it. He's playing with a lot of passion. It's been fun to watch. And, of course, the start of the game yesterday was exactly what we wanted. There was a little bit of a scary moment there when they scored in the power play before the goal got taken back because it seems like every time the Leafs grab the lead now, they get it taken away from them. And this is a team that had 27-0 or 21-0, whatever it was, heading into the third period. That has changed a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward with this team because each game matters a lot. They obviously play a big game as well coming up here. So we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you guys for watching.